use the governance structure to help us get a handle on the challenges that we faced when we were told to start a new committee structure. So we weren't sure how to organize the committee and where to go. So governance actually helped us create some standards and best practices. We first analyzed our overall strategy, and then we used the governance model to help not get a handle on the direction and our standards and practices to share with subject matter experts and executives and the initiatives that we wanted to go forward.
I think also a little bit it helped define scope as people started to understand who we were and the work that the advisory committee would do. So.
And we needed buy-in from a wide variety of people, being a higher education and having faculty and but administrative assistants doing most of the actual input of information. So our committee was not structured correctly in the beginning to represent all of the factions that really needed to be a part of the discussions. So that's where we started.
How did you come to make those adjustments?
Just by kind of knowing the institution and knowing who some of the decision makers were, and either getting them at the table for committee meetings or asking them to recommend someone who should be a member of the committee.
Well, so I think that the three of us interface with different levels of the campus. Mary does a lot of work directly to the academic side, and she had the ear of an upper level academic administrator. I have a lot of interface with the student affairs or the staff side and the higher level executive for that end. And Lynn had a lot of the IT area, so what is the technical capability of the campus. So working in conjunction, the three of us would meet and talk about how we would want to approach something, getting that message out in a couple different ways and what would be the benefits. It really helped move that forward. And I think for the committee, before it got restructured, we saw why it wasn't working, and I think it became apparent to those that we were working with and talking with, they understood it. So for it to go through a bad phase kind of helped us get it to a good phase.
I would say basically as we were trying to get the buy-in from the organization, the employees on campus. Mm-hmm. And by using our governance model, some of the governance documents include the policy. Right now, VP in charge of student affairs, student services is working on revamping all of the policies on campus and publishing them on the website. So it will be clear that the web committee is responsible for creating policies, enforcing them, implementing them. So that's clear in a public document. We also have some internal documents, a committee charge document, and also web publishing guidelines. So we've used the governance model to help us in a collaborative way through the committee and project teams make it clear the role of the committee. So it helped us laser focus on what is the role and actually then document it.
I think your meeting agenda format, I have used that for so many other committees. Maybe you might want to talk about it, because I think it's beautiful. It keeps people on point as much as possible. Otherwise, some of the committee meetings can really creep out of scope.
Yeah, the agenda's focused. The first part of the meeting is reporting, and it says that right on the agenda, reports only, no discussion or decision making. Mm-hmm. The second part of the agenda is for topics that need to have discussion or decisions, and those are when we have our internal project teams generally are either in one of those sections. They're either just doing a report or they're actually bringing a recommendation that we need to make a decision on. And then there's a bottom section that is the next steps, and it takes those recommendations or decisions and puts them down and says who's responsible and by when.
Yes. And
then at the very bottom is a little parking lot. So if other topics come up but are out of the scope, they're put on the agenda so they don't get lost. Mm-hmm. And then that agenda just that same format morphs into the notes from the meeting, so they're not really minutes, but notes on decisions and.
It's really a great way to capture the entire meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually one page.
Mhm.
Wow.
So that's the goal of it. That helped. I think it helped to have the project charters, and again, that really came from the vice president who's working on the policies. I think it's important to have those, especially if you're in an organization like Normandale is multi-union, faculty union, AFSCME, management, middle management professionals. And if you really want good discussion at a committee, you need broad representation. And what's going to happen at the table is that you will have, excuse me, some people who may be administrative assistants who are accustomed to deferring to someone else, maybe in a position of authority within the organization. And it's important that the project teams have a charter that defines their scope, because that kind of gives authority to any of the members to say something. It's hard for people lower in the organization hierarchy to point out when something is going in the wrong direction. But when there's a project charter, they are making that, they are pointing that out with the authority of this piece of paper in front of them. And I think that's important, especially in a large organization. If you're going to have a committee and really want honest, open discussions, you need to give authority and permission to people who don't normally have authority and permission.
I think it's helped define and make their roles clear. We have a document called the Web Publishing Guideline that takes it even just a step farther, that explains the role of each content contributor, the role of each content approver, exactly the role of the web strategy committee. We also have other documents like wireframes and style guide, web style guides. So when myself or the web content specialist meets with the content contributors, then it's clear, and they give them clear direction on what needs to happen.
You know, our governance is continuing to grow, and one of the things that will help implement that not only are these resources that have come out of the community, but we've developed a web content specialist position where they will be the trainer to go out and kind of be the evangelist of the resources that have been created. So, and that was actually a position that these two advocated that I post and create. So we made it happen. And it's just in its infancy, and we're really looking forward to using that position to help the content contributors make sure that they're following the guidelines for publishing. You know, I think segueing from my last comment, we would really like to see a work group with the web content specialist being the lead. So all our content is dispersed to all the different parts. Well, there's someone who's doing the content for each little department. We would like the web content specialist to kind of head a work group of all those content contributors. First, we're going through a new CMS implementation, so that the web content specialist will help with some training in how to implement content in their pages. But then it will come down to a best practices ongoing training. That will make sure that there's some level of quality control. So we have one main campus web content specialist that works with the content contributors across the campus. So that's one way to make sure that what's going up is what we want. It's following the right
We have an overarching strategy, and we're in higher ed with limited resources and funding, so we're doing incremental changes to build our way up to our long-range strategy. One is the content specialist, as Matt described. We're putting in a technology side, a new CMS that's robust and can support the core content with workflows and whatever. But our goal is to get to be more structured and thoughtful in getting toward a redesign. As Christina Halverson and Melissa mentioned, that you can't just say redesign is our end-all be-all, but actually do the work that the experts have helped us give us guides and practices to follow to get to a redesign, so but have the governance and have the best practices in place to help us get there.
And we often bring that big picture plan to the committee and show them what we're looking at, and making sure that as we approach this, the whole college has buy-in into it. We can't just make a large change or even incremental change unless we have the buy-in, or else it could fail.